Hey, you, welcome back to the channel. And I'd like to continue on a little bit with the Craig Wright is Satoshi video that I did the other day. Game of Thrones was about to come on. I wanted to get a video in like I usually do on Sundays, and time kind of snuck up on me. But I left a video that I thought was an interesting interview, and I also noticed that someone gave a comment, and a good comment that basically addressed some issues and why Craig Wright isn't Satoshi. And I was going to respond to the comment, but as I thought the video was, just, pretty much just opinionated about Craig Wright based on some of the evidence I've seen online, but the video I didn't get to discuss a lot of that. So I want to talk a little bit today about what is supposedly is some of that evidence, and that's the Tulip Trust Fund. So let's read a little bit about what the Tulip Trust Fund is about, and how that could possibly answer some questions as to some good questions that have been asked, specifically like, well, if he's Satoshi, just go in, just sign a while and just prove it, and a variety of things. So this comes from the Wired.com article uh, back in 2015. And it says Bitcoin watchers have long wondered why the giant cache of coins they attribute to Satoshi Nakamoto never moved on the Bitcoin's public visible blockchain. Wright's Tulip Trust Fund of 1.1 million Bitcoins may hold the key to that mystery. The trust fund, PDF signed by Wright's late friend David Kleiman, keeps those coins locked in place until 2020, yet gives Wright the freedom to borrow them for applications including research into peer-to-peer systems and commercial activities that enhance the value and position of Bitcoin. So, looking at the Tulip Trust, it's locked in place until 2020. And if that's true, if the Tulip Trust Fund exists and it's a real actual thing, uh, then that would kind of explain a lot of the idea of why he can't just go into the wallet. Some speculate that he was kind of the heir apparent to David Kleiman's Bitcoin holdings. And noticeably, he did make quite a bit of threats 2018 going to 2019, saying what he'd be able to do in 2019. Now, wondering if that's giving reference to the idea that he would be able to get access to these funds, right, to this Bitcoin. So if it's some type of locking mechanism that's keeping him from getting access to it, maybe that answers that question of why he can't just go in the wallet and sign it. Another thing that came up with some comments, and I think they're valid comments, and I did kind of touch on that a little bit, and that was the idea that he doesn't act anything like the image we get from Satoshi, right? As much as we can take from his writings, right? Now, interesting enough, there's a lot of emails that were uncovered between Dave Kleiman and Craig Wright, and that's kind of interesting. But it's a lot of these emails that apparently show that there is this big connection about them, having this Satoshi, development of Satoshi, and how they were all involved together. So it's just these interesting emails that are available online that many of you guys can read, and I guess you can say that's some kind of evidence as well to go along with that. But they basically show evidence through these emails, and then domain names as well. Now, interesting enough, going back to the mannerisms and how people behave, the only thing I could pretty much say about that is I've been in situations where I have looked at certain people and I have thought to myself, or I've maybe even accused them of things based on how they behaved and reacted and their body language. So, when I look at Craig Wright's body language, to me, it feels like he's either lying or not telling the entire truth, right? That's how his body language comes off. But I like to remind people that there are cases and there are situations I myself have been in them where I've kind of accused people of certain things, and they've given all the signs to being guilty of certain things. And later I come to find out that they couldn't be responsible for some of the things I thought that they were of. And even when questioned and drilled, they seem to respond and behave in a very guilty fashion for whatever reason. I don't know. The way humans behavior is kind of hard to say that's definitive evidence, because you don't answer questions at a certain way or respond in a certain way. And some people, they pause, and it what I think with somebody like Craig Wright, it could very well be that he is part of this Satoshi group, but he understands that he is only part of it, and that the position he's trying to take with it, as to say I alone am Satoshi, might be incorrect, although I believe he does admit that it was a group of them. But what is clear is he's maneuvered his way through the cryptocurrency space and controls a great amount of cryptocurrency. However he was able to do that, does this offer some evidence, this borrowing, this transactions that possibly could have happened between him and Dave Kleiman? Maybe, perhaps. But I'll try to leave a link in the description to many of the email letters, because there's so many of them. It's so long a read, and I want to go through some of them. But I didn't want this to turn into a 30, 40, 50-minute video, because that's something I think you guys can do on your own. But I just thought it was interesting that the whole Satoshi Nakamoto story has survived so long and so well without any leakage at all, right? Because when we pretty much do away with Craig Wright, there isn't another story that holds any water. There's nobody pushing it. There's nobody saying, hey, it's me. Interesting enough, the Bitcoin hasn't moved. So does that mean that it's locked in place, right? What is it being held for? If you think about somebody like Charlie Lee, who took Litecoin and he was donating to creating foundations and a variety of things. If the cryptocurrency was locked, then that would kind of make sense. If maybe someone like Satoshi later went, well, I will at least do some transactions with it, maybe give some to the Cancer Society, the American Red Cross, or what have you, which is, what happens a lot of times when people who have this image of freedom, to humanity and economic freedom, and, they want to help in some way, in some ways, if the story we've built up about Satoshi Nakamoto is true, right? Of course, it could also be the other story, which he's dead. But when they talk about the Dave Kleiman story a lot, it sounds like a person who is in a state of deterioration in their health. And what that does is that leads me to believe that he would have time then to make the necessary preparation to what happens to the Bitcoin and a variety of things like that, right? If it goes into trust to his family or whatever the case may be, or if it goes into the Tulip trust fund, right? So all just something to think about, guys, something to consider, that how is it possible that the Bitcoin story has survived unscathed this long? Makes me quite the skeptic. But that's all I got to say in this video, guys. If you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and until next time, take care.